So here we are in this gorgeous sunrise on the day of Yom Kippur. So we can expect a minimum of traffic, hardly any compared to normal. And not only that, but Ben Gurion Airport is closed down since 1 o'clock, 1:30 yesterday. There goes one car. Let's see how many cars we have. It's very unusual for cars to be out on Yom Kippur. The roads are closed. So people go out walking on the roads and cycling on the roads. Here comes a bicycle. We already saw 4 or 5 bicycles. It's amazing. Just a few phenomena. The media don't work today. Can you imagine a country closing down its media? Most of the media closes down, is that correct? No television, no radio. So that's amazing. So I'm probably one of the few broadcasters here from Israel today. And actually I asked myself about this morning. But I just thought maybe this way, let's say call it my excuse, my reasoning, my self-justification is that you're able to be present at Yom Kippur. Because nobody here is broadcasting. Maybe there are foreign reporters and institutions broadcasting. Here comes another car. But like by this time of the morning, you have already lots of traffic, and every day going to work, and there's an intersection right here. You can see a car coming in right now at the intersection. There are actually 2. And they're going north there. I understand there are some centers working in Arab communities. We're looking at Migdal in front of us. That's a Jewish community, so it'll be very, very quiet. But just over here is Wadi Hammam behind us. And Wadi Hammam is a about 1,800 people Muslim community. So they obviously are not bound by the rules of Yom Kippur. But it's amazing how most of the country actually doesn't operate at all, the Muslim population, the Christian population. And the secular Jewish population does not keep Yom Kippur in a religious sense, obviously, because they're secular people. But many of them go to synagogue today. It's the only day they go to synagogue, a little bit like Christians who go on Christmas to church or on Easter. So look at how quiet this is, you know. And this is the main thoroughfare from north-south thoroughfare in Israel on the eastern side of the country, up through the West Bank, up through from Jericho up to Mount Hermon, basically, which is way up there, not visible this morning, at least from this position. I think we could see it actually if it were visible. So it's amazing to be out on the road and not hear the sound of a car. Our guest house is full, so there are secular Israelis who come to be away from the restrictions imposed in the communities, in many communities. But most of them will just do hiking today. They won't go out in their cars. Hardly any Jewish person will do that today. And that's quite something else. That the media closed down, the airport closes down. And we're talking about, let's say the strict part is a 26-hour close down, or 25-hour close down, from last evening until this evening. It's an hour longer in the closing than the start, an hour later on the clock. So it's 25 hours of close down. And And that's quite interesting that a country can do this. And then the airport is closed down longer because it won't reopen for incoming flights until about 9:30 p.m. Tonight. And the outgoing flights won't start leaving until almost midnight. So this is an amazing phenomenon. Obviously, hospitals have and emergency facilities have a minimal staff to make sure that all of the necessary conditions for life can be met for helping life, saving life. So that's one area that's busy working. People bought their food, they're at home. Actually bought their food, they're fasting. Now, not everybody fasts, the religious Jewish people fast. And probably some more secular Jews. Here's an emergency vehicle, a police vehicle, I think. So they're out on the roads as well. Some of the cities have a more intense experience, like Jerusalem and other places which have very intense Orthodox populations. It's more strictly kept. And then the police also help to enforce it because there can be a certain aggressiveness and hostility if people are seen not keeping Yom Kippur restrictions. Sabah al-Khair, Kiev Halak. Also these cows, I think they're outside their fence area. But they were here before, so I guess they have options to do this. So he's obviously trying to collect them and bring them back. I know that work. It's really amazing to have the capacity to stop. Are we able to stop? Are we able to stop? You know, let's even think about more committed, active Catholics. What a heroic effort it is to go on a retreat for a couple of days. I think that's amazing that we have such a hard time stopping. We're so thrown into action. We're so thrown into action. We're so committed to, or maybe addicted, or maybe it's not committed. Maybe it's almost becoming a helpless situation. So that's when things become helpless in that sense, and our will is compromised. Then we need things like Yom Kippur. We need moments where we say no, where we don't get entangled in the unconscious forces that are just pulling us away from our own personal decisions to order our life. And that's a big challenge. It's interesting today in the first reading, the request made to Timothy is exercise your leadership. Exercise your leadership. And Timothy might have a moment of discouragement because he's very young. So people might actually call him out on it. Like, who are you? Like, you're just a kid. You're just out of college. You're just a paper boy. You're just the water boy. You know, who are you? Like, you don't have any experience. We know, we've been around a long time. I remember I was a young priest, and I won't say the country because then people might think who it is, but I almost don't want to say this, but somebody of very high rank said to me, "You're new, and we're here a long time, so draw the consequences." And obviously, it would be very foolish of me if I came into a place as a newcomer and wanted to turn everything on its head there, that would not be very, very prudent. It could mean a lot of mistakes. We need to get to know the environment in which we're in, the society in which we live, the community in which we are a member, before we can do things. But at the same time, to have the courage to lead. And if we are bound and blinded and lack vision because of being tied down with habitual forms of behaving that aren't really conscious, they're just enslavements. They're not free. They're not clear decisions that we make. We're committed to, in an addictive way, to things. And sometimes those behaviors, we allow them to constitute our identity. That's the way I am. Well, actually, no. You can change. And the whole idea of Yom Kippur is a day of, the common translation is a day of atonement. But maybe in its original form, it's also a day of cleansing, a day of renewal. So the atonement is very important as a concept because atonement means making good for something wrong. Let's say you say a word that's not nice and you kind of said it accidentally, or maybe you said it intentionally because of a moment of passion that didn't allow you to have a clearer vision. It was darkened by selfishness. And you say something that is hurtful. So what's the next thing you do? If that's a person you love and care about and who has been hurt and offended by your words, then you try to say, oh, I didn't mean it. And you try to make up. And even if you weren't, let's say, morally culpable, it was something accidental, something that you actually did not mean. And it just happened in complete, in your blind corner where you couldn't see. You still want to make up. And you want to heal the relationship. So the whole idea of atonement is making up. It's also an expression of the dignity God gave us, because God didn't make us as little slaves. He let us stand on our feet. That's where He wants us to grow to. He doesn't want us to be down on all fours all our life, or on the flat of our back all our life. He wants us to stand up in His presence, to speak with Him, to be in a relationship with Him. That light is so incredibly beautiful. And so the idea of atonement then is, I'm not on an equal footing with God. How could I ever be? Because He's the creator of everything. He's my creator. But I'm also not just another brick, another block of cement without any meaning or purpose. Well, purpose and meaning a block of cement does have, but it doesn't know about it, and it has nothing to say about it. Whereas I have a lot to say about who I am and what I do and how I relate. And so I'm responsible. And Timothy is being called out to be responsible for the mission entrusted to him. It's really a great call to liberty. And a great call to responsibility, because liberty and responsibility go hand in hand. Hey, we saw a car on a main road. Sorry, I went around too fast. But this is more common now, to see people walking on the road and cycling on the road. So now you have a little taste of what really goes on here on Yom Kippur. And this is the culmination of 10 days of penance at the beginning of the new year. I wonder if we would ever think about starting a new year with 10 days of penance. Good morning. Boker Tov. And so there are 10 days of awe before God, recognizing God again in our lives. There's prayer, there's fasting. Fasting is a great exercise for a consumer society people, because it brings us to our knees. It helps us to realize how fast we can become so weak if we forgot about the days we were sick, or the day we had a virus, or the day we had a fever. It's how quickly we can collapse. And sometimes we behave like we're Tarzans forever. Well, people, I've talked a lot this morning. There's a very powerful gospel theme this morning. This guy tries to judge people, and he has to learn that you don't judge people. And besides, he has to learn that there's such a thing as forgiveness. And that's also a big theme of Yom Kippur, that there's forgiveness, that God forgives. And there in the presence of Jesus, he pronounced this woman forgiven, and that's really causes turmoil in the tummy of this guy. But he has to learn, what a lesson. The person who is forgiven more will love more. May that be your great experience in life, that you are deeply loved. People, what an amazing sky. And the sun is just coming out over the top right now. Look at that beautiful light. God bless you. See you later, alligators.